Hello and welcome to SmutFairy for another of our Meet the Author interview episodes. I am Kato.
And I'm Elle.
And today we have a very special guest, a former pro ice hockey player and now author, screenwriter, and playwright, and our first man on the podcast, Bill Keenan. Welcome to SmutFairy.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, very exciting. I didn't realize it was the first male guest, so lots of pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure, but we might make you a little badge as our honorary first member.
So we will, of course, be discussing Bill's latest book, The Swan and the Sentinel, and his fascinating career to date. But before that, we would love to know a little bit more about you. And most importantly, have you always been a romance girly?
I mean, I have to be honest. My introduction to romance was probably like a lot of people seeing it, like the Fabio looking guy on the cover in the grocery store.
Hell yeah.
I can't say I ever made it beyond just looking at it at checkout. And, it probably wasn't until like sometime after the pandemic that I picked up my first romance novel and sort of got a little bit more interested in the genre and learned about it. And I think like a lot of the world, in the last couple of years, it's exploded and I'm, kind of trying to catch the wave a little bit.
Yeah. What was the first one that you picked up?
So I would say the formative introduction that really took me from like, oh, this is some genre that's out there to like, okay, I got to like buckle in and maybe even participate in writing. I was at a event for the company that I used to work at, which is a digital publication called Airmail. And this was maybe 3 years ago. And there was a woman that worked at a publishing house that had said, Bill, you were a hockey player, right? And I said, yes. And I've kind of been through this thing with a lot of people like, yeah, I played hockey. I played in Europe, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of go through the same thing. And she had just published a book that was a hockey romance book. And she said, you should check it out. And I kind of gave her the like, sure, like never going to happen. Yeah, no real intention. The next day I actually had a flight and I was at the airport and like we have Hudson News here in the US that are like the big places. And it was almost like this serendipity because as I walked by, I saw Icebreaker. And
oh my God.
You started with Icebreaker.
Yeah. And it was really, that was the book that she had mentioned. And so I was like, wow, like I can't believe she had mentioned this last night. I sort of dismissed it. And then I was like, I got a 6-hour flight to LA coming up. So I was like, and let's be realistic. Like the main thing that caught my eye, I first saw like the hockey player, he's got like the stick, whatever. Mm-hmm. But then I saw at the top, like over 1 million copies sold. Yeah. And so I was thinking like, all right, there's something here. Yeah. And so that was it. That was the first one that I actually like read. And obviously I think that one is just got announced that's going to be a series, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been about 10 lately where they were like, wait, we're onto something.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that was, in fairness, that was like when nothing had actually been made, no dramatic features or anything, right? But it was, so that was the first one. And then from there, I did a lot of outreach to different authors and I started exploring like the genre because I was not, to be quite frank, like expecting what I ended up reading in that book. Like that's quite something in there.
No
like,
one.
Right
the covers like really don't tell you anything.
No, it was like, it did a great job of like, I page 1 and I was like, wow, that's not what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. But I also realized there were books. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'd not say I don't. That wasn't actually totally my speed. Like that was I was more fascinated by the fact that as I learned more about it, there are all these subgenres and all like the spectrum of spice and all the different types of stories. And that to me is the most interesting thing about it is that it's not just a one size fits all. Like you generally know where you're going to end up. Like you're hopefully going to get the
Yeah.
happily ever after type of deal. But there's something for everyone. So if you want to be like really getting some crazy out there stuff, like there's, you know, a bunch of books. Like if you want something that's family friendly, there's, and for a reader and a writer, it's nice to be able to explore that whole spectrum. So
Yeah, absolutely.
We've definitely found that for sure. Like we always say there's a smut or a romance book for everyone, and that includes
and
everything.
It's nice. And in that way, it's so true. It's like, to me, that's such like one of the beauties of the genre is that it doesn't exclude anyone.
Yeah.
And it really plays the fact that like everyone is looking for acceptance and love. There's a lot of things that are on the face of it. You know, I feel like I was part of a group, representative of a group of people before I got into it, which was like, oh, this is sort of, you know, kind of trashy or lowbrow or whatever. And the reality is it's like, there's more to it than that. And there's a reason that it's been so successful as a genre for so long. It's because it's really tapping into, you know, a lot of people. And I mean, I'm talking to two people that obviously know this, and I don't have to convince you of it, but I can just tell you there's still, from a male perspective, I'm certainly, I feel like speaking on behalf of a lot of guys, because I can tell you a lot of my friends are not reading this, but I think getting them introduced is step one. And so, yeah, that it's kind of something that I always, I mean, not always, but since I read that book, I was like, I want to see if I can make something happen here.
See how it goes. Absolutely. I find it really fascinating. Like, as you were saying at the beginning, how I guess romance and kind of erotica books just used to be pictures of half naked people, and they were kind of terrifying. You're like, I can't read that. That's
They're a tough
scary.
sell. They're a tough sell.
The like rebrand of it to be, you know, more about like the emotions and the journey and the people and the representation, and to see people like you going through things and then being successful and happy and things, I think is so interesting, because I don't think a lot of other genres have that potential. I think, you know, if you're talking about fantasy and sci-fi, you're already so removed. Like you're on a different planet, you're in a different universe. But there's something so special about being able to be, oh yeah, I could have this kind of romance in my life if, you know, the stars aligned. And there's something really special about that as well.
Yeah, I also think it's like, so you were talking about how there's heaps of sub-genres as well. So like, Elle, you were saying like sci-fi and fantasy and stuff, like it's not as easy sometimes to like put yourself in it. But the ones that I find it's really good to read, the ones that are like a romance sci-fi or a romance or like a sci-fi romance, fantasy romance, whatever, because it has that storyline that like if you've been reading kind of pure romance stuff, it can introduce you to other genres as well in a way that you're like familiar with and can kind of relate to more easily. So like, you know, in this house, we've read a lot of alien romance and that kind of thing. And it's like, even though you're on another planet, everything's different. Like the beats are still the same. The
principles are the same.
Yeah. And you can still kind of insert yourself into it a little bit. So I think it's so expansive as a genre.
I agree. Like there's an accessibility to the genre. And also I find the same thing. Just being someone that likes reading across genres now is not always this way. You know, there are books that I remember picking up 10 years ago and like, I can't make it past the first chapter because it's like so out there and I can't, right? Like you can't empathize with the characters because it's, and there's something that's nice that I found in romance where it sort of blends between the fantasy, but it's enough. It's not like a pure escapism. Like we have to have such a crazy imagination where like there's beings that I have to figure out what they look like. No, like this is something where people are trying to love each other. People are getting rejected. They're getting betrayed. And so like inherently in romance, it's I think it's easier to access fantasy and sci-fi, like you said, through a romance angle. And so I think it's so fascinating. The more I learn as like a newbie, like, and really not all that surprising how much success and how big and vast the audience is, because it's like these are very human things.
Yeah, it's crazy once you start going into it and you're like, oh, everyone is reading this, even if they don't talk about it. Like, I think it's just more that it's getting talked about now. I just think like
Yeah.
the girlies have always been reading this kind of stuff. And I agree with what you're saying that it's like probably there's obviously a significantly smaller proportion of men in this kind of audience, but I do think it's something that would be like really beneficial for men to also like get into. Like, I think there's so much there for everyone. Like you said, there's a level and a setting and a whatever for anyone that wants to jump in, really. And as I've said before, like men don't know what women want. We give you the blueprint. It's in the books. We've given you the instructions.
And that it's funny because that's one of the things that as I tried to understand what is it that these books have in common, is like, sure, there's low spice, high spice, like everything in between, but I think knowing that I've always found myself historically drawn to books that you don't know what to expect, and you're looking to have your expectations subverted as a reader. And it's kind of nice to kind of know what you're going to get. Like, there's going to be ups and downs, but like, where this is going to end up. And I think it's just a totally different way of like approaching reading and writing, which is, don't try to like do something totally original. Like, this is, make sure that it ends here. You can do some stuff in between and use your imagination. But it's, yeah, I think we're on the cusp of where this is going to go from, and we were already seeing it, where there's like a very fervent group of, readers, but now it's hopefully going to make its way outside of just women. And I think you're right, like getting men, step one is more writers. And then I think even within that, exploring different stories and even maybe there's new subgenres that creatives can come up within romance that will make it more interesting to male readers.
Yeah, it's ever evolving. And so on the topic of like more male writers and those kind of things, you yourself are obviously now a male romance writer, but so interested in the pipeline from hockey player to romance writer and how that panned out for you. Can you please run us through it?
Well, yeah, I mean, hockey was what I did since I was like 5 years old. So I grew up in Manhattan, and there wasn't much hockey in New York City, and there still isn't, but there was a lot of really good hockey in New Jersey and Connecticut and Long Island, which are kind of within, hour and a half or so of where I live. And so I played it all growing up. I played it through college, and I played it in Europe professionally for 3 years after college. And that was when I stopped hockey. It was for something, if you spend your life, the better part of your life, no matter what age you are, at that point I was 25. So of those 25 years, 20 years had been spent like obsessing over this game. So it's a big blow to say like, this is now not going to be a part of your life going forward. And so that coping with that is what led me to writing. And so the first book I wrote, which is Odd Man Rush, was just a memoir about playing hockey and like the hijinks and all the kind of, just a guy being a guy trying to, get laid and, score goals. And that was in an odd way, like it was certainly not a hockey romance, but I would say it when I look back, you look back and you connect the dots, it was like, all right, this is something I enjoy doing. I enjoy writing. I know hockey, so I know how to write about it. I know the characters in that world. And then I can't say there was a ton of romance. There were a lot of swings and misses, I would say, in my memoir with females. But I had that experience with that woman who had mentioned hockey romance. I read, came across the icebreaker in the airport, but I ended up finding the woman who I'm now married to not that long after I read that book. icebreaker. And so like then I got a little firsthand romance experience, and that was really like the book, The Swan and the Sentinel, is really it's a hockey player and a ballerina, and like I was a hockey player, my wife is a ballerina, so I had like there
We
were a
did
lot of
notice
things
that.
in front of me that like it was I didn't have to go. My imagination is not so great, so I was like, what
You
do
didn't
I
have to
know?
go far.
I didn't have to go far, exactly. And so like it just like ideas start percolating in your mind, and that was really like the genesis. I was like, all right, I'm hopeful I will live a happily ever after. That's the goal. Well, let's put it down in a story. And so I kind of had the building blocks. It's in no way like autobiographical. It's completely made up, but I knew hockey and I knew ballet. I knew those worlds. So I felt confident being able to write fairly authentically about them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it
It's
really
the
comes
perfect
through.
mix of both as well. Like
Yeah.
you can tell there's so much knowledge specifically about hockey and about the ballet as well. Like there had to be some kind of, expert opinions coming in from it. So I think that's so wonderful. You've got to base this book about the experience of your worlds. I think that's really wonderful.
It's
Thank you.
nice to read because I'm an ex-rower, so I know all about that transition from athlete to
Rower?
yeah, to real life.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
And
But
I'm ex-ballet. So
Oh, is
we've
that
really
right?
covered both sides.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
ex-ballet.
Wow. Okay. So you know all about that.
yeah, so but I did find it a really good perspective to read from someone who has played like elite level sport, what it's like to be like injured and that kind of thing. Like I was like, wow, I have been in this headspace before. Like I was like, ow, actually. But yeah, I was like, you can really tell that it was written by someone who has been there and has actually done it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there was a lot of time spent. I feel like anybody whether it's ballet, whether it's a sport, discipline, art, like physical or mental, everyone's going to have setbacks and hardships. And
Yeah.
so I think that the goal is you got to just figure out, it's always easier to start with somebody that's, has some sort of issue they're battling and is looking for answers.
Yeah.
So that was, as you can relate to, I'm sure you, Elle, as well, like being injured is a great way to kind of put your main character down in the dumps.
Oh, yeah.
So someone or something to help get them out.
The spiral, the injury spiral. So we have kind of transitioned into the book itself now, which The Swan and the Sentinel, which is it out this week? No, next week.
Yeah, no, it's out.
No, it came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Obviously,
it was last week. It was last week. Yeah, it was last Tuesday. Yeah.
Has it been
congratulations.
Yeah,
that's
congrats.
so exciting.
Thank you.
So in your own words, we would love an overview of the story. We can keep it spoiler free, obviously, because we want people to go and read it. But
sure.
Can you give us the beats of The Swan and the Sentinel?
Yeah. So it starts with, you've got Liam and Petra. So Liam is he's the star of the New York Sentinels, which is a ice hockey team, professional ice hockey team in New York. And he's battling this injury. He's basically should be at the peak of his career. And right at this moment where he's going to take the league by storm, he ends up getting hurt. He's got this bad injury. And he ends up forgetting his niece's birthday. So he's got a little niece who's coming to New York, and he's scrambling to figure out what he needs to do to make sure he stays in his older sister's good graces. And so the niece loves ballet, and he's able to get a hookup from his team to go see Swan Lake, which is the ballet that's playing during his niece's visit. And so he ends up going there expecting to sleep through it. And sure enough, he's like spellbound, and he can't believe, the athleticism and obviously the magnetism of some of these ballerinas. So they go backstage, and he meets this one ballerina who's a soloist named Petra Montgomery. And as you can imagine, sort of there's some sparks and some romance. And meanwhile, he's trying to figure out how he can rehab this injury. And it basically, the doctor's like, you gotta, like, I don't know if I have any answers. This might be out of my hands. You know, some things just aren't meant to heal. And he realizes all this stuff that he saw on the stage, there might be something here. Like he's willing to do whatever. So he goes and basically essentially signs his niece up for class. And of course, she has to go back home because she doesn't live in New York. So he shows up in her place. He ends up talking to Petra and basically saying, look, like, I need your help. Like, could you potentially help teach me ballet? I think it might be the answer and help me rehab my injury. So do that. It, basically that's when the romance starts heating up. But as you can imagine, it's not all butterflies and sunshine, because it kind of rocks both their worlds. And, ultimately, she's got a boyfriend at the time who's a big movie star, and we see the ups and downs of what it is to have a relationship in New York with both characters under the spotlight.
Yeah. By the way, the movie star boyfriend was like top tier dick. Like, I was obsessed with it.
Can I say something? In my head, the guy that I was thinking about, and this is in no way a reflection of either of you, but was Australian. I just kept thinking,
Okay.
This is some like a aren't the Hemsworths Australian?
Yeah. No, I see the energy.
I just felt like they might very well be awesome guys. I don't really know, but I just kind of thought of, like, that sort of like strapping Australian guy.
Yeah, don't worry, we got our fair share of dicks down here too. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Amazing. That's a bit of lore I'm really happy about.
Yeah, I like that. That's quite good. I think that was a fantastic summary as well. It really gave you like the main beats without spoiling anything, because I really enjoyed this story, and I thought the like complex development of the relationship between Liam and Petra was really interesting, because obviously they're both at like top of their games respectively, and how to intertwine your life with someone else with such a vigorous training schedule and games and performance and all that, like, and under the spotlight, that's pretty much unheard of and really like difficult to present. So I think this story was really interesting.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, and we see it all the time. Like, I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you guys down there read the New York Post or like Page Six, these sort of tabloid.
We're familiar,
type of,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you have your own version, and there's all sorts of characters that the Australians follow, but you don't have to look all that far. Like, this doesn't take, these things are happening all the time with, a movie star and some athlete, and, there's literally like, one of the star hockey players now is dating, Tate McRae, I think. And there's, there's always these things are always like fraught, right? Like oftentimes there's going to be an expiration date, just because like there's really only room for one person under the spotlight. So, and
the lives are so different too.
Yeah, and they're traveling, and everyone's got different motivations, and you get thrust together and torn apart,
and then it's like the media aspect of it as well, I suspect, makes it a lot more like a pressure cooker, where it's like we're speed running everything because everyone's aware of absolutely everything that we're doing all the time, and we never see each other. So yeah,
and just like I'm sure I have no idea, but whether they're reporting things that are true or false, like all of a sudden it takes on its own life. So like you could think everything's going great, and then you read something, and there's a group. I think a lot of these people, they're only human. So you start seeing things, even not knowing what to trust and people are going to be insecure about things. And I can only imagine it's got to be miserable to have personal life kind of speculated on a daily basis by people that don't know.
Yeah, most certainly.
Semi-related to that, in the book there's a part where there's like a video that gets leaked of the ballet that Liam's doing, and I did think because obviously for Liam and Petra, they were both like, shit. But I thought one of my favorite parts of this book was actually the reaction of his team when he got to the locker rooms, which was that they were all trying to learn ballet. It was so cute.
Well, that's like look. If we want to go into like my ultimate dream, I actually the way that I met my wife is that my older sister was a ballerina. So my older sister was a professional ballerina and is now actually like one of the coaches. She's what's called a rep director at New York City Ballet. So she introduced me to my wife. But I say this because when my older sister was a little girl and was like, all she wanted to do was do ballet. She was the older one, so my mom would take her to ballet class. But meanwhile, I had to be picked up too. And so what ended up happening is that my mom enrolled me in ballet classes when I was a little kid. So basically, I had to do it as a small boy, and probably from ages like 6 to 10, I was doing the Nutcracker in the party scene, and like I was going to class, 4 or 5 times a week. And as I said, I wanted to play hockey, and there came a point where I was like, all right, like I can't go to practice in ballet, Mom, and I really don't like this. But what she was the way that my mom sold it, like I know in retrospect, it was more like, I got to bring Glenn, my older sister, to ballet. So like, I'm just going to put you in class. But she would always tell me like, this is going to make you better. You're going to get better balance. You're going to be stronger than ever. So in my eyes, there's a version of this where every NHL team has on staff a ballet trainer, and the same way they have a mental therapist and a physiotherapist. Like there are so many instances, primarily like in American football, where you have these huge guys that use ballet to improve their agility. And I think it's like any athlete is going to, if they see something working, they will all jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for the movements and the way, I mean, specifically hockey, so much is about being very slippery and being elusive. And so much of that comes with body awareness and knowing exactly how to manipulate your body and flexibility and strength. And like, that is ballet. So that's the goal. Is like that I'm hopeful that people, they see that, and I'm trying to orchestrate where NHL teams actually, I'm talking to these teams and basically saying, how about you come to your local ballet company and have these guys take class, because it'll be funny and they'll screw up and it'll be charming, but like maybe it'll actually be something they'll get something out of.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. Do you think that the NHL is kind of, does it have like the culture that would be like embracive? What's the word that would embrace that?
Accepting? Yeah.
Accepting.
I think so. I mean, I think this day and age, and I can't speak for, the powers that be, but I feel like things that are just like marketing stunts, people see through that, and that will come and go. But the reality is, like, ballet is a timeless art. It's been around longer than hockey has. And these dancers are like, they are elite athletes that are dedicated to what they're doing in the discipline as much as any other professional athlete, if not more so. I've seen it firsthand. And I think that if you come at it and approach it from the angle of like, this is something that might help you get better, it can, like, all things that end up being like innovative begin with someone being like, oh my God, that like doesn't make any sense, or like this is laughable, or this is cute or something. But it has to start there, because if it starts with, oh, of course this will work, then it would have already happened. So
yeah, exactly.
I think I guess all to say, I don't see why not. Like if people, I think it's an open-minded enough group, and I think that it's a matter of getting the snowball rolling. It's not like everyone's going to adopt it tomorrow, but I think, like, you see how sports and teams and organizations evolve. It's like it takes one group to kind of put their neck out and try something and, you know, be willing to look foolish.
Set the
But if it,
example.
yeah, and who knows? But I think I, no better sport than hockey to give it a go.
Absolutely.
There's a 90s style sports movie in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean the cutting edge, like, you know, that one, that the hockey player and the figure skater.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm,
these,
Yes.
and look, at the very very least, if there's no hope and it all of a sudden everything fails, like at least you've got some like hockey players and some ballerinas like that. They're gonna enjoy each other's company. Like that's not the worst thing in the world. Like
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
okay, like
Absolutely.
to mix and mingle, and there's so
I
I
think
think
as well, like to give with so many high level sporting careers, I would say a decent amount of them end unfortunately in injury. And that can be not only like shattering for the body, but also for the mind and the sense of purpose and belonging and you know, if especially if you've done it for your whole life and then it ends like this, there has to be some kind of like more support and like an avenue to keep pursuing your like physical fitness
mhm,
and the purpose. And I think going through that process of going through a different sport to maybe come back to hockey or maybe not is a really really good thing, because you're keeping up your practice but you're also keeping your mind really busy with all the new steps and memorizing
yeah,
things. And I think that could be a really really important, like, you know, recovery mechanism.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. You see that with almost. I mean, from what you're saying, it's almost there's like a therapeutic component where you
Yeah.
lose yourself. And by the way, like it's you mentioned like learning those steps. Every time I watch ballet now, like I've gotten to the point. Like I watch enough now where like I like there's specific choreographers that I'm like excited about. Like I love Balanchine and Jerome Robbins, and then like there's composers like the Tchaikovsky stuff is always my favorite, like the very classic ballets. But I'm now like deep enough into it where like just the sheer ability to learn is like all those steps, because you got some of these ballets like there'll be like there's you know like a Nutcracker or Swan Lake where it's just a single story ballet, and like one dancer has like a single role. But you also have these ones where there's programs, so there could be like four different ballets going, and sometimes like these dancers are dancing in like three or four, all of them,
Yeah.
and like the amount that they have to learn, you know, is so it's an incredible body of work that it's just like anything else. Like once you start getting immersed in that world, like you just develop more and more respect and appreciation for how difficult it is. And so I think, like anything else, for someone that's excited about pushing themselves mentally and physically, ballet is a great thing. Like getting into it at any age, like it's only going to help you. And
Mhm.
you know, I know in New York City Ballet they do a great job of programs for like older people that maybe they danced when they were younger, maybe they didn't. But I think it's a great way to keep healthy and active, and and express yourself. You know, it's ultimately an art, and
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. On the topic of hockey and sort of the boom of the romance genre as well, what are your thoughts on heated rivalry and off campus?
I mean, it's awesome to see the visibility that hockey is getting. I I can't say it's necessarily those shows are for me.
That's fair
It's
enough.
and but it just goes back to like I've now like seen and read enough in the genre where it's like there's going to be something for everyone. I think it's those two in particular I get, because there's they lend themselves to being adapted because there's some shock value, there's like originality, which is
Mhm.
just as someone that's creating stuff, I respect any and all of that, because it's like they're taking a very specific point of view, and you know I think it's great to see people like talking about it and interested in it. my biggest problem, honestly, is having played hockey. I can't I can't help but be like fixated on the authenticity of stuff,
Yeah.
and that's like it's hard to pull off because it's there's so much that goes into it, and the fact is like these shows don't need to have it be. If anything, like it's like the charm of it being not right is kind of appealing to some people, but it's enough to where like I'm like, well, that you would never skate like that, or this would you're never gonna look
That's
up
not
and play
real.
a game. Yeah, and like I can't help that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Definitely.
it's
I
so that's for
yeah.
me. That's my own problem. But I get. I guess all I'd say is I get, and I'm excited about the fact that there's so many people that are like, oh my god. And then they're like, well, is this what it was like? I'm thinking like it's not anything close to my experience playing hockey.
Yeah.
None of this ever like I don't know about this world, but it's cool that it's getting people pumped about reading more in the genre and learning more about hockey. And
Well, down here, it's so I only semi recently discovered we actually have an Australian ice hockey league, which I mean makes sense. But we've got a team called the Sydney Bears, and their attendance in like this season has like they've sold out like every game now. And last weekend they did. I'm actually going to my first ice hockey game this
cool.
weekend. Excited to know nothing when I get there. But last weekend they did a collab with like the Sydney Bears game and one of the romance bookstores in Sydney. So they had like a hockey romance like game kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was and I was like, wow, we really are in the like hockey romance bag down here. Probably also because it's a sport we don't really have on a high level, but I think all the teams are like gaining followers. They've all worked out that they need to be on social media, like, you know, having their players like read these books and like all that kind of thing. So it's cool.
It is cool. It is cool. And it's like they've done, I'm sure you guys have seen, I think Nashville is one of the teams that did like romance author night last year.
Oh,
like
yeah.
there's a team Nashville Predators, and like it's a perfect city because it's very art driven. There's a big country music scene, a lot of so it's yeah. I mean, they're case in point. Like you have to look no further. And I think the one thing that is that I knew having been in that world, but I think a lot of people there's like the stereotype where oh like the hockey fighting whatever blah blah. There is it's a very like humble group for the most part. There's a bravado in the locker room, and there's a lot of like, you know, peacocking activity.
Chirping.
I would say. Yeah, there's a lot of chirping. There's a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a group that I think has a sense of humor, and that's the first key. Is like they're rather than think like oh like this is not this is not for me or I don't want to be associated with. Like there's going to be players that I think are going to be interested and have fun with it, and like that's the most important thing because that gets people excited, and then you can start doing these like you're talking about cross-pollinating these different groups and learning about going to your first game. Like would that have happened if people weren't crazed about this world? Who knows? So
yeah, I think you're right, like the hockey scene I think is a perfect like environment for it because one thing we always say about like smuts and romance is you just can't take it too seriously. Like it's just like it's here for fun. It's for fun, and you can't really be super serious about things when you're regularly getting your shit rocked on the ice. Like there's a certain humbleness I think that has to come with that. So I think they all seem very keen to like get on board with it and like ride the wave.
Yeah, you nailed it though. Like it is an inherently, I guess you'd call it a humiliating game in the sense of like the second that you think like you're the top shit,
Slam.
You'll get the puck and like you'll be seeing stars, and and that's like one of the beauties of the whole world is that like you will forever be humbled no matter how good you are. Like each level will give you a bigger dose of it, and I think it's not all that like that. That's a great way to approach your whole life, because you start taking things seriously. Like nobody wants to be around you. You're not fun, and you're not going to have a good time. So you might as well like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it sounds like everybody's equal on the ice as well. Like
For sure.
you could be the best player, but you still might get tackled by the rookie. Like that's just a risk that might happen, like
Yeah.
unlikely, but I think that sort of energy is really good for an audience as well, because if you're getting all these new people to come and see it, it's a bit different from like soccer or like Australian league football, where you kind of have to know the points and the positions and things like that, where you can just go and watch, and if they get it in the goal, then great, and if they don't, then boo. But it seems like it's way more accessible, like entry level. Like obviously you
Yeah.
can become
It's
way
entertainment
more.
as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of like the intersection of like sport and entertainment is a great place to start to then learn more about the sport.
Yeah. It's like, I think, and like what you're saying is that there's like a primal thing that goes on in hockey, which it's certainly when you're playing it, you don't have time to like be thinking, oh, like there's no thinking. It's just
Yeah.
like you're reacting, it's an incredibly interesting thing to see people that are caught up in something, right? Like that's the best viewing. It's like you want to see an actor that is a character. You don't want to see an actor acting.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so like
Yeah.
nobody on the ice is doing anything other than trying to defend or score.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing about hockey that I would say is like, you see this at your first game, is like the second that you get people live and you see it in real life, that I don't know anyone that's ever gone to a game and be like, oh, that didn't exceed my expectations. The problem is like getting them there. It's so much of entertainment, like you lose if you're not there. It's like the difference between listening to something on Spotify and going to a concert. And hockey is just like the speed is so fast and there's so much intensity that like you can't, no TV is going to be able to like make you feel that. You have to be there. And once you're there, you can appreciate it, and then you can go watch on TV and remember that.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I want to get into ice hockey more with the NHL. Do you have a team in the NHL? Surely.
I mean, I love the Rangers just growing up here. Yeah. But I will watch. I if a game's on and I happen to flip on my TV, I still enjoy watching. Really, whoever.
We got pretty heavily invested in the Philadelphia Flyers recently, mostly because of their mascot.
Oh yeah,
Gritty. Have you seen Gritty?
Oh yeah, of course. No, he's a big
orange freak, obsessed with him.
Yeah. He was pretty strong on our algorithm for a hot minute. I've learned more about the team than I ever knew.
Than I ever thought I would, yeah.
But see, that's great. Like there's an example. I think that it's never going to be like, I think the challenge in the US at least is with the professional sports leagues and teams, you can do a lot more with like minor league teams, right? Like that Savannah Banana baseball thing. I don't know if you guys get that. Like you can't really do that at like at the NHL level. You can do kind of stunts, crazy things like that at the minor leagues, but there's still mascots and there's things that you can do that certainly with social media can amplify your reach and just get people excited about, again, like going to the game. It is that environment. It's hard to replicate.
It looks so fun.
Yeah, and like the way that the game is, it's just so different than a lot of sports because of how much action there is constantly happening. It's not so much stopping and starting.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. Well, yeah. You consider us loyal Grittisans.
You have to go to a game at some point. Those are the
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I'm hoping to catch one in Vancouver when I'm there.
Yeah,
as well.
that will be great. It'll be really good. This is a bit of a segue question because I'm really interested in the playwright work that you've done, especially Spin Cycle. I wondered if you could give us just a quick overview of sort of how you came from writing your memoirs into writing like the play and then into the novels. Like, what was the trajectory?
I would say sometime around maybe 2018, 2019. I always think of like how it compared to the beginning of the pandemic, at least
Mm,
in the US. That was like March of 2020. And right around then, I want to say either 20, maybe a little before 20 or 18 or 2019, a guy named Neil Simon, who was like an incredible, iconic playwright, born and raised in New York, he passed away. And I remember watching it on the news, and it was like, the playwright and mind behind The Odd Couple, among many other stories, recently died. And so I remember thinking, I'm like, wow, I've heard of The Odd Couple. And so it was literally just like, then I read his obituary, and unfortunately, I discovered him because of his death. But basically, this guy, he was one of the pioneers of like the buddy comedies, right? So
mm.
like two guys, I think as a guy that grew up in like the '90s, like Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey and
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels, that was like
They're
iconic movie.
iconic. Yeah.
Yeah, and like those are buddy comedies, and really, The Odd Couple is like, it was a play that Neil Simon wrote a long time ago, and it has since become their. They ended up doing a version with two women that are The Odd
Mm.
Couple, and then they've done TV shows and movies and all sorts of stuff. But he was just a very prolific writer of New York type stories, and to kind of, for people that don't know, I would say his sensibility is very similar to like a Woody Allen or Larry David or Seinfeld. Like he's got that New York Jewish
Yeah.
sensibility. Like it just,
Yeah.
Mm.
people know what that is. And he wrote movies ultimately, I think probably to make money, but he was initially a playwright, and I wrote, I don't know, like probably hundreds. And so like it was really reading him got me into the whole world of theater. And I never actually saw plays. Like I was not a theater person. I just read a lot,
Mm.
and they were short. I just like, there's also something cool about it. Like you could have such a short story. It was just dialogue with a little stage direction. And like, it was some of these, as I started reading more, and then I'd read about him, and then he'd talk about who he read. And then like, it just leads you down a path of like this whole world of playwrights. And then you realize there's a lot of screenwriters that write movies that I like that actually were playwrights to begin with.
Yeah.
So that first play that I got produced here was called Spin Cycle, and it's one of the big influences was this guy Sam Shepard, who was he was actually like not only a writer, but he was also an actor, and he very creative mind, and he was one of my favorite writers. He wrote short stories, novels,
Mm.
like all sorts of stuff. And so it was just kind of it's what's called a two-hander. Spin Cycle, basically just two people, and it's about a lot of themes of like mythic Americana and betrayal and grief, and it's a darker story. This is not a romantic story. This is kind of like
No.
yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different. But I was just doing a bit of background research, and I read that it was set in a laundromat. And like, I think they're some of the most. I know it sounds super boring to be like the laundromat's really interesting, but like at the end of the day, every single person needs to do washing, and people from all walks of life will come in and share their stories. And I think it's a really fascinating backdrop, and then to be put on the stage as well, like a short story, but to be so emotive and interesting, and to tell so much in such a short period of time, I find really like fascinating.
Yeah, that's
Um,
what the outside of writing a book, which is great because you don't have to answer to anybody except you have like maybe an editor that's going to give you
mhm.
notes. But other than that, it's like that's it. Like it's what you decided to put on the page, and that's what ends up getting consumed by a reader. I think a play is like the next best thing because you've got to start with the words. You do have a director, and
Mm.
hopefully they're going to be additive. But if you just have a two-hander, you're basically just talking about two more collaborators, and ideally they enhance it. and they make your words better. And so you're able to like do create this story that can feel very like urgent. And having now seen more plays mainly like off Broadway here in New York that are in smaller settings, we talk about live environments. It's a very cool thing to see like a really well written play with really good actors. And there's a lot of theater here that's like no one sees because it's just they're not always movie star. Like the movie stars will go and do Broadway shows occasionally to kind of pretend like they're, like
still in theater.
Yeah, like and it's great because there are some good actors, but there's also a lot of movie stars that come do it, and you're like, well, like, you should not be up here. Like you're better at
totally
doing stuff for like 100 takes. But like there's so many talented people that it's a cool medium.
I think it's very similar to like what you were saying about the live energy of being in a stadium, especially for ice hockey. There's something so like it's almost like a trance when you're watching the stage performance in a theater. It's you're so encapsulated in the story that by the time you finish it, you're like, whoa, I need to take a deep breath. Like I didn't realize how much of like a physical enjoyment that was taking as well. I think that's a really special kind of entertainment as well.
Yeah, definitely. And if it's done well, it can be like, it's something you will not forget. And
yes.
Unfortunately, if it's not done great, you'll be like, I can't wait to get out of here. But it is.
You also might not forget it though.
Yeah, exactly. Either you're looking for really, really good or really, really bad. I guess it's really it's why like hockey, the at the lower levels, certainly in the U.S. at the lower levels, like the goal is like they know that they're not going to keep people engaged with like the talent,
skills.
So they kind of go with the theatrics, with the fighting. It's like that,
and I respect that. Okay.
Sells tickets,
yeah, exactly. You're a busy guy. What is next up for you?
I have in a couple of weeks. So as part of the process of writing the Swan and the Sentinel, I think I had mentioned I went to like anything I've ever done. Like, let's go to figure out how to do this by going to people that have done it. Like, you want to be a hockey player? Go get lessons from people that played hockey. So I did a lot of outreach to hockey romance authors, and I ended up kind of developing a sort of a pen pal relationship with this woman, Sawyer Bennett, who was really helpful in giving me notes. Like I sent her some of Swan Sentinel, and she gave me really good insight into like how I could improve it and stuff that I immediately was like, oh, that's a great idea. And I put it in the book, and we just started talking, and I asked, like, would you ever have interest in collaborating? So we ended up deciding to collaborate on a series. So we have that. The first book in this series is coming out on July 7th, and it's called Grizz. And it's a totally different world, and it's a higher spice, which she does. And we plan on making this like a longer series. That's what she's done historically, which is basically write, a book or a series that's centered around one team in her universe.
Yeah.
So that's, continue to write with her, and then, work on more projects solo as well.
Yeah. So a series coming out. Exciting.
Yeah. Book 1 of the series. Yeah.
And, wow. That'll be cool.
Yeah. Good to like note higher spice. It's important to our listeners to know how spicy things are.
Yeah. No, I know that was a big, having gone through this again, like you don't, as I said, like there's some genres where you want audiences to be like, ooh, I don't know. These are my expectations, but I kind of, I want them subverted. I know very clearly now that like, if you're going to tell someone it's X and it's in the romance genre, it better be X that you're delivering, because they're going to be very upset if you give them Y, So,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that takes away from, I think like romance and smut, they're almost two different categories, and they have a lot of crossover. But
the Venn diagram is almost a circle.
Almost, but there is like a lot of things that are just purely romance and then just purely smut. And I think that people forget sometimes just how important a romance book is. Like obviously we're a romance and smut podcast. We talk about everything and like everyone, everything.
And then some.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's the story about the people and connections and you know, how their love story develops. Like that is just as important as well.
For sure. And that's and going through this process, like collaborating to write a sex scene, it's with someone like I had never met her in real life. Like, I mean, we would Zoom and we talk on the phone, but one of the things that became very clear, because the Swan and the Sentinel I wrote because I was like, I want something that's, I know this world. I want to just get something out there and see if it works or it doesn't. But I also wanted it to be accessible for like the younger girls here in New York that are ballerinas, and like this is a family friendly story. And when I was talking to Sawyer about like where we want to position this, she was like, this is sort of what my demographic expects. But the thing that she was very adamant about, which I think is what you're talking about, Elle, like you want to make sure that those scenes are earned, because if you just like it doesn't make sense to just, it's not like just gonzo porn. Like you have to have something that, and I mean, there's a place for that. Like I'm sure there's, as we said, there's something for everyone, but like this one, it is romance first and foremost. And so like, we have to lead with that. We have to lead with, okay, does this make sense? And some of these, we would debate, like, is this realistic? Do we need to like have another date? Do we need to like develop the scars of these characters more? So
is there tension? Is there yearning? Like what's going on? If it makes sense.
I think that's such an underrated aspect of like, so even if you've got something that's like super high spice, the ones that are really popular and like blow up, I think are the ones that are really good at, they're pretty plot forward, but they also are like so good at, it's the tension that's the success of them, I think, rather than the actual payoff. You have to have the payoff, but it's all of like, it's kind of like why everyone always likes the first book in a series, and then if the two characters get together and there's a second book, you're like, I'm less interested now. Like there's no tension anymore.
For sure. I mean, it's like most things where like the fun and the excitement it's over by the time it actually happens. Like you're looking to extend that. And I mean, I'm reading like one of the books. I usually have like on my nightstand, I'll usually have one play, one fiction, and one nonfiction. Just like so whatever mood I'm in, and obviously reading like more hockey romance and just like romance in general. And I'm reading The Deep End by Ali Hazelwood.
Oh my
God,
God,
our next one on the pod.
That is one of my favorite books in the whole world.
Really, like, talk about like really like the tension. Like I mean, she does such a great job of
excellent sports book, by the way, as well. Sports romance.
Yeah. It's like and like I would almost say it's just a good story. Like it's interesting characters, and like she's really got a very specific, angle, and the world is sort of interesting characters. I think she does a great job.
All of her stuff is amazing.
Yeah, because her background is in neurosciences, which is also my background, and it's kind of similar to like you guys in sport. Like you know so much about it, and then when you're watching a movie or something, and they'll play with the I don't know, wrong colored skates or something like that, right? Like something simple but so obvious that
I know ball.
I know sports. I can do this. But I have the same kind of thing in science, and especially in like a lab. And you'll go into like, and the worst ones for this is any kind of like action movie or like the Avengers movie, and they'll go into a lab and they're designing something top secret, and it's just people in lab coats. Their hair is down. There's no gloves. They're pipetting like random, and I'm like, if you wanted to make this realistic, you needed to do like 3 steps. It wasn't very difficult. But now I don't really know where's your pipetting? But I really appreciate that with Ali Hazelwood's books, she does that authentic science, and it's just as much as a part of the story as the story itself. Like it doesn't feel forced.
Totally.
But yeah,
You
that's
know that
such
she
a
knows what she's talking about, and it's like it's nice.
yeah.
That was the first thing I did after I started reading. I'm like, wow, like this literally is this like a doctor that's doing this? And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like, how did they know it? And then it's like,
So
yeah,
smart.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
PhD.
so it's,
That's her.
yeah,
She's amazing.
pretty wild, yeah.
I know. But yeah, really good to hear that you're reading Ali Hazelwood. She's like
Yeah.
my favorite author.
Yeah, I actually got
so
banned from finishing that book last year because it got to me too much. You know when you read one and you're like, oh, in the feelings, like, and Elle was like, I think you need to not read that for a little while, and I was like, that's fair enough.
Yeah, we'll
but that's
come
I
back
think
to it.
our next one of the next ones we'll be doing on the pod, so I'm allowed to revisit it now. So the Swan and the Sentinel is out. Where can readers get their hands on a copy?
Yeah. If you're in New York, I would go to the corner bookstore. I'm not sure anyone listening here is in New York City, but
They might
they
be.
are a great local bookstore up on the Upper East Side. But I mean, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and then Post Hill Press, the publisher's website. But I think it's sort of like the usual suspects. And if it's not there, let me know, and I want to make sure that we get it there wherever you're buying your books or
Yeah,
e-books.
there's also an audiobook on Audible, which is how I consumed it, which very good actually.
The narrators, it's a fascinating thing picking the narrators.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how does that work? Sorry.
I mean, for the Swan and the Sentinel, we had a different, there was a different publishing house that took the rights for audio, and I think they gave me a couple selections, and it's primarily, it's fun. I'll address it right now, but it's from the male point of view, and the whole thing. And there are instances where I went third person when he's not around, rather than go to Petra's point of view, which would make it seem that there's only 2 or 3 chapters that are like that. Which,
yeah, it's not a full duel. Yeah.
I figured let's just do third person. So it's, that was the decision that was made there. But with the upcoming collaboration with Sawyer Bennett, that's pretty much, it's not fully alternating male, female in the chapters, but for the most part, it's a switching.
It's more of a dual, narrator.
It's more of dual. And she just had a list of people that she's worked with, voice actors. And so they just read samples, and we had a sense of, what this guy and what the woman looked like, and who they were as characters, and you just kind of hope that someone matches it. And there are when it's good, and when I've listened to a lot too, you're like, wow, that's exactly what I envisioned, or this sounds like, and it's not good. It can be off-putting, and it's
so jarring.
Yeah, and it's not it's incredible what the voice, I guess the voice acting can do. It's it's like an actor in a play or a movie. You they can either take your words and just make you feel like you're, this big, or they make you feel like you're a genius. And really you realize so much has to do with who's delivering these lines. And
I really liked the delivery of the audiobook. I thought it was really good. It did definitely match the character. Which even if you haven't seen the character, or you have no sense of what they're like, you can almost tell straight away, from what's being read and the tone that they're reading it in, or what their voice sounds like, whether it's going to be a match or not.
It's funny because I also, in now 4 books that I've done, I've never actually met any of these people, but every single one that has done the audio has reached out, and you realize wow, this person spent a lot of time with this book. I spent the most writing it, but I'm wow, I've never met this person, but and they've been so gracious and excited, and they bring so much of their own talent and work to it. It's fun to they'll have a view on a scene or a character. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm happy to discuss this, but didn't occur to me your point of view here, which is a great thought. Like,
Yeah.
It sounds so cool. Okay. That is probably all we have time for. And so make sure you get your hands on a copy of The Swan and the Sentinel in all the places previously mentioned. As for us, you can find SmutFairy on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple as always, pretty much anywhere you get podcasts. Video on Spotify and YouTube if you're into that. And you can find us on socials at SmutFairyPod. So that is all. And thank you for tuning in. And once again, a massive thank you to Bill Keenan for joining us today. We've had such a good time.
It's been great.
So much fun. Yeah, thank you guys. Hope to be back soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we'll have to find out more about Grizz, etc.
Yeah. No, well, I would love to circle back. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys taking the time. And
No worries.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it too. This has been really great for us as well.
Yeah.